charge of it. Now, in the aftermath of last year's general election, I penned an article in the Jamaica Observer outlining my observations and conclusion that truth prevailed in that electoral contest amid a torrent of fabrication and lies. And I made the observation that while others narrowly focused on the immediate outcome of the contest, that's the fact that the JLP and Andrew Holness had won, I was more interested in what the victory meant for the stability of our democracy and the importance of truth and decency to that process. At the time, I thought voters stood guard over basic democratic ideals, certainly the fabled swing voters. Certainly they did, yeah? Those were my initial observations without the benefit of distance and time from the election. Now, having had the benefit of 4 months past, a new reality is beginning to reveal itself. The election was important because of its choice of experience and battle-tested leadership in an increasingly volatile and uncertain world. And that's important because we're waking up in a world that's being fundamentally reshaped. And whether you like Andrew Holness or not, and I've long been a proponent of the fact that you don't have to like the guy. You don't have to like him at all. But whether you like him or not, you have to admit that in these uncertain times, someone tested and proven is the best bet to navigate the turbulent global environment we now face. Without hyperbole, I think Andrew Holness was made for this moment. And in this moment, we must say to him, you must not fail. Consider the facts. A warming planet and changing climate has left this region, Jamaica, uniquely exposed to weather shocks entirely outside of our control. Our infrastructure, roads, schools, hospitals, and our people are threatened by ferocious hurricanes. So too are hard-fought economic gains threatened. When you step back and assess the situation without the political blinkers and colored lenses, who best to guide the country and push the international community than a leader who has been at the fore of the fight for climate justice at the highest levels of climate diplomacy? Holness has been that leader. Yes, not with fanfare, not with flamboyance or particular rhetorical flourish, but he has been there. Ask Antonio Guterres or Justin Trudeau of Canada. Holness is also ably assisted and supported by Matthew Samuda, a man who has been passionate about these issues from he was a boy. I think that combination of international experience and diplomacy and raw passion and zeal are important as we navigate the climate space, knowing well that this threat is existential for us. Jamaica's voice must count strategically on the world stage. Then consider the geopolitical realities of this region. Trump's military strike on Venezuela, his capture of its leader, and his exercise of raw power over the hemisphere have vindicated people like Kamina Johnson-Smith. And I know we often forget, we like to forget in this country, and so I will remind you the diplomatic storms that she has weathered. It was the same Kamina Johnson-Smith who came under sustained pressure in 2019 when she stood for Jamaica's interests first and foremost over all appeals to blind friendship and loyalty to a Venezuelan regime that was terrorizing its own people. I vividly remember the allegations that Holness and his lot were dissing our friends in Venezuela. That's what people said at the time, and that they had become a puppet of the imperialist US government. It was a similar story on the fraught issue of Israel and Gaza. So ask yourself, How do those allegations now fare in a world where it is clear one has to choose friends very carefully and closely and ensure that all interests are always protected? Those who would have chosen symbolism over pragmatism were wrong then, and they are wrong now. But more than that, it shows the importance of experienced diplomacy, a steady hand and measured leadership in the conduct of foreign affairs. Again, this government has proven its dexterity and know-how to navigate diplomatic crises, and to do that in a way that does not sacrifice Jamaica's interests, which are the only interests that matter. Let us be very clear about that. Again, Andrew Holness and Kamina Johnson-Smith appear to me made for this moment. Then there's the rebuilding effort from Hurricane Melissa, another major crisis that our country must navigate in the coming months. Here again, I find reason to be optimistic. There's reason to be optimistic because this is the government that weathered COVID-19, a once-in-a-century pandemic, and they took Jamaica out on the other side better for it. I think that is the kind of resolve that will be important in ensuring our island home is, in fact, more resilient when all is said and done. I don't think I need to mention crime and national security. I think the 42% reduction in murder speaks for itself, no matter what the detractors say. But in dismissing those detractors, we must be mindful that reasonable voices can and should raise questions about police fatalities and claims of abuses. So then, why have I seemingly joined the Holness Cabinet's cheering posse this morning? Well, firstly, because in this moment, Caribbean leadership seems to me a study in risk management. And I think if we're honest, this cabinet has proven to be effective risk managers. And so in uncertain times, institutional continuity is important. And on that score, the outcome of the election was important. Secondly, the Holness government needs to understand that because of the past performance, the burden of expectation that they carry is one of enormous consequence. The ability to deliver at one of the most difficult periods in national and global life will shape how this country situates itself, not only in terms of how our own people view the capacity of the Jamaican state to respond to domestic crisis, but also where we stand in the world. So the government must prove itself worthy of the confidence reposed on September 3 last year. It must meet the moment. It must meet the moment without the stench of corruption or impropriety attending to any project or spend it undertakes in the coming months. I think that perception has lingered for too long, and honesty demands an acknowledgement that those questions have not gone away in the minds of many Jamaicans. And so they must not be given any further life with the massive spending that will happen in the coming months and years. The government must also meet the moment in creating an inclusive governance framework that, yes, absolutely asserts its right to lead, but also gives due regard to the other voices in the society. And yes, my JLP friends, that includes the opposition, the parliamentary opposition, the People's National Party. Holness and his cabinet must also be brave in facing down the major issues that have kept us back. Public disorder, procurement bottlenecks, bureaucracy, all of it, just to name a few. It has to be confronted and dismantled, because you see, my fear is that our people are losing confidence in the state and in its systems. And I think that's a recipe for strong men and forked-tongued actors to fill the vacuum. And I think that outcome poses a threat to democracy. I think America, and I dare say Trinidad and Tobago, are learning that lesson. Suffering is their teacher. Last week I asked the people of Jamaica to dare to dream. Sat in this chair on Friday last. And this week, I'm asking the government to meet the moment. Because the choices we make now as a country may well define us in these uncertain times. I think most Jamaicans should be happy that this is not a government with training wheels on. It's not a government populated by novices. It is tried and proven. And I think that's all the more reason for us to demand that in this moment, this very difficult, uncertain moment, that they deliver. We must demand that of them. We should accept no less. Up on the break, after the break, your calls.